From trying Viking-inspired workouts to limiting her diet to an extreme extent so that she can make weight, Miesha Tate has a very rigorous training routine. I mean, it's literally called the Viking workout. It seems like Tate likes to hit the gym with her other UFC competitors. In a YouTube video posted with Dustin Poirier and Corey Sandhagen, the UFC fighters proved just how hard training for a big fight can be. The fighters started with rowing, but wait, it's not your regular rowing workout. The Vikings used to row for tens of hundreds of miles in a row to escape a storm in the middle of the ocean. Of course, it's hard to recreate the same exact conditions, but these athletes powered through a similar workout. Rowing for 1,500 meters in under 5.5 minutes isn't easy, but Tate made it look like it was. She said it's good for cardio and also serves as a full-body workout. This next exercise they did was inspired by how the Vikings engaged in combat. It's no secret that their soldiers fought with very heavy weapons, and they had to fling those at their opponents. While UFC fighters can only fight using their hands, they need a lot of strength to do so. That's why Tate had to hold a 42-kilogram kettlebell for over a minute, or until she physically couldn't do more.
Right now, I'm trying to really stay focused on Amanda, and I know everyone's so excited for that Rousey fight. I hope that's something that happens, but I don't want to overlook Amanda, because if I don't beat Amanda, there's no next.
After this, the fighter had to do 50 kettlebell passbacks for the same weight. Of course, to make the challenge harder, it needs to be completed in less than a minute. Not only does this test Miesha's endurance, but also her balance and grip. These aren't the only exercises she did as a part of this Viking-themed workout, though. As a part of combat training, Tate, or Cupcake as she's known, had to practice dirty boxing. Of course, a heavy bag is used for this exercise. The former Strikeforce Women's Bantamweight champion has to dirty box for 30 seconds and complete the whole circuit thrice. This is definitely not for the weak. To finish this workout off, Miesha Tate has to do 20 hammer swings, with 10 on each side, of course. This is meant to mirror how the Viking soldiers used to swing at the enemy with everything that they had. The hammer swings are followed by 20 alternating landmine push presses. Then, in the second to last part of the workout, a medicine ball weighing 30 kilograms is used. This is used for 10 alternating shoulder tosses and then a 30-yard carry. Athletes don't have to do this just once, though. In fact, they have to repeat it 5 times. Plus, they need to complete this whole thing in less than 3.5 minutes. By the end of the workout, Tate and the other UFC fighters are fighting for their lives. It's definitely not a piece of cake. For this part, Tate has to balance on an upside-down basu ball. Then, the MMA artist has to catch the correct colored heko sticks that the trainer throws 3 times.
I'm that kind of friend.
Yeah.
So I have this friend of mine who's like a 275-pound bodybuilder, like 6'4", big guy. And he's like, I would just grab your arm and pull it off with like one of my arms. I'm like, well, let's see.
This one requires more than just physical strength because you have to think of the colors instead of just blindly catching the stick, all while trying to balance on a basu ball. Then, the same exercise is repeated, and this time Miesha stands on one leg while catching the sticks. The calculations fighters have to make in the ring are very complicated, but fighters don't have time to think about them, so they need to be sharp and test their mental strength as well while they're training. While this isn't how Miesha Tate trains all the time, it just shows how much physical and mental pain you have to go through while training as a UFC fighter.
It goes to show that the division is thickening, and that's how competitive that it is. You know, a lot of people for a long time were saying, oh, there's no depth, there's no depth. That, well, I think we've disproved that recently. You know, there's
No wonder Tate has some killer glutes along with an insane waist to hip proportion. All this comes with years of hard work, of course. Even though her routine isn't the same all the time, the fighter mom likes to keep a few things consistent. For starters, she tries to stay as active as she can, especially after she had her baby. Tate said that she's always been active, even when she was a kid in high school. She also never skips her morning exercise routine. And ever since her daughter was born, she has found a way to work out every day without neglecting her. Miesha has spoken many times about how she went hiking with her toddler. She also loves cardio and strength training, which is definitely a must when you're training for something like the UFC. You need to make sure you're as strong as possible before you step into the octagon. The UFC champion is also a huge fan of functional training. Her favorite one involves a Bulgarian bag, which helps improve grip strength along with functional strength and overall fitness. Tate's fitness regime has changed a lot since she first started fighting, but the core principles are more or less the same. But when it comes to pre-fight training, there's no denying that it is painstakingly difficult. ESPN gave fans an intimate look into what Miesha Tate's last few days before a fight looked like. When she was given a prime slot to defend her title in UFC 200, Miesha Tate took it without any hesitation.
Many times in my career where it's been an 8-month layoff, 9-month layoff, 6-month layoff. This is going to be a really quick turnaround. I get to make my first title defense against what I feel is like a very formidable opponent. She's on a...
She was going up against Amanda Nunes, and just a day before her fight, she was elevated to the main event. Behind the scenes at her training camp, things were very intense before the fight, especially because she was battling a super brutal weight cut. At the time, Tate was 29 and being coached by Robert Follis. Muscle and Fitness reported that Miesha Tate was training for 6 hours a day for 10 weeks straight, right before her title fight. This is actually insane.
You know what? I was expecting anything. I was expecting 5 rounds or 1 round. And, she really impressed me with how, savvy she was on the ground, at least her defense. But, yeah.
No wonder Tate's sturdy physique and raw strength are enough to intimidate her opponents. When it comes to training for a fight, though, diet is just as important as working out. After training for hours on end, Miesha would usually have red meat so that her iron levels stay up. Before the UFC 200 fight, she was trying extra hard when it came to her diet because of the weight cut. While she was able to enjoy cashew butter as a snack, she had to be really careful about consuming foods high in sodium. After all, salt does hold water in the body. Cutting weight is an art form because of how much discipline and hard work it requires.
Ronda's got to watch out for an up kick.
When you love the game as much as Miesha Tate does, though, you're willing to make as many sacrifices as possible for it. The former women's bantamweight champion needed to be at 135 pounds right before the fight. Since she didn't know she was competing, the weight cut was extreme. It started at the Extreme Couture MMA Training Center and finished early the morning of the weigh-in. Tate had to wear 3 layers of clothing, which included a sauna suit and sweatpants. Then, she began her late-night training by putting herself through the paces. She had a lot of weight to lose overnight, and she did it. The whole process was nothing less than intense. Training with so many clothes on and sweating so much that people have to wipe it from your eyes is insane. All this, and she still has to keep the sweat pouring from her body. Running, wrestling, shadowboxing, and lying under a covering of yoga mats in an upstairs chamber set at over 90 degrees is just insane. No ordinary person could ever do that. After all this, Epsom salt baths are up next, along with more exercise, in order to keep the water rolling while the pounds fall off. All this is what led to Tate making the deadline right before the fight. MMA training is clearly not for the weak. That's all I have for Miesha Tate's intense training routine today.